Education is one of the many themes we've talked about during this semester, and I'm going to show how education has been portrayed through various texts we have discussed. Self-Reliance is an essay written by Ralph Waldo Emerson discussing the importance of individualism and how it rejects the way people have conformed to society's ideals. This is a transcendentalist way of thinking, as transcendentalists believe that an individual must be independent from society to achieve their best self. Emerson thought education could corrupt the young adult as society is trying to force their beliefs and ideals onto them. In his essay, it says, "There is a time in every man's education where he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better, for worse, as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good." Emerson is saying that lack of originality of ideas and copying each other can be detrimental for human life. Emerson's ideal version of education is through self-discovery and experience, and not having society telling you what to believe. Transitioning to Flannery O'Connor's Good Country People, one of the main characters in the story is Joy, which is later changed to Holga, and she has received a PhD in philosophy, but has returned to live with her mom, Mrs. Hopewell, when she is 32 years old. While living with her, Holga is rude and condescending to everyone she talks to, and she thinks she is smarter than everyone else because of her perceived education. This paints a picture that education does not make you a more wholesome person in life. Even Mrs. Hopewell states that it would have been better if the child had not taken the PhD. It's worth mentioning Mrs. Hopewell still refers to Holga as a child, and not as a civilized adult. Holga's lack of real-world knowledge becomes evident when she thinks she can convince Manly Pointer that his religion is not real, only to be tricked and have Manly steal her leg and state, "You ain't so smart. I've been believing in nothing ever since I was born." This shows that Holga's education is overvalued, as she is not actually that knowledgeable of the world around her. Finally, Alice Walker's Everyday Youth is about the differences between a mom who has not received an education and her daughter that has received an education. The daughter's name is Dee, but like Joy from the last story, she decides to change her name to Wengero because she wants to fit in better with society, which would go against Emerson's previous claim. There is definitely a cultural divide between Dee and her mom because of Dee's education and love of material culture, while her mom is not changing from the family heritage. The mom states that Dee used to read to us without pity, forcing words, lies, other folks' habits, whole lives upon us too, sitting trapped and ignorant underneath her voice. She also states Dee washed us in a river of make-believe, burned us with a lot of knowledge we didn't necessarily need to know. It is clear that the mom is distant from Dee as they have very different beliefs, which is why the mom decides not to give Dee the quilts at the end of the story. And education is a main reason for that, as education creates uncomfortableness for some people, while it can be seen as a symbol for Dee's change in the story as she is becoming part of a society where she thinks value is based on being materialistic and moving on from traditional family legacy. All of the texts I have mentioned can find a way to view education as negative. This is because the similarity of all these texts is that education is perceived in a way that can blur a person's concept of reality. This can create division in households, as some people might not like the way education has changed the way of thinking for some people. This creates the debate that Emerson brought up earlier, which is, should education conform a person to societal norms, or should it be about self-discovery and creating your own beliefs?